Hi, my name is Jane Powell. Welcome to Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. This is a show showcasing community involvement, and wow, do I have a great guest lined up today. We are going to talk with Executive Director John Rutherford, Metro 911. John, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate being here, and we appreciate the foundation and the support you give Metro 911.
So I have so many questions because I think we all think of dial 911 in an emergency, and yes, that is what it's all about. But there's so much more to it, and I'm anxious to learn about that.
Yes, that's the basic function of 911,
Right.
is to get people help, is to help the citizens when they're in time of need, to make sure our first responders are safe. We teach our employees from day one that we're there to help people, and we're there to be kind to people and help them with their emergencies. We're talking to people in sometimes the worst days of their lives.
Absolutely.
And it's a stressful job, but we have great employees who do a great job, and we really do a good job trying to keep our first responders safe, and also responding to them, having them respond to the emergencies with good information.
Because you handle a volume of calls every day.
We take about 500,000 calls a year, which is about 1,500 calls a day, sometimes up to 60 an hour. So it's a very demanding job. We usually have anywhere from 10 to 13 on a shift, depending on the day of the week, the time of the day. And it's a very demanding job. It's call after call. It's a stressful job, but we got great employees who do a good job.
Yeah. So 1,500 calls a day, and you're dealing with police, fire, and EMS, is that right?
Yes, we have 32 fire departments, 22 police departments, and 2 EMSs in Kanawha County. And one of our dispatchers, 1 minute they can be handling a shooting call, getting information for the police department to keep those police officers safe, are there guns involved, are there guns still on the scene. With the paramedics and the Emergency Ambulance Authority, we're talking to the people on the phone. If in cases we're sometimes giving CPR instructions. Kanawha County is a busy county. It's the biggest county in West Virginia, and there's a response time. And during this response time, while there may be a loved one that has had a heart attack, our dispatchers are actually giving instructions on how to keep your loved ones alive. This could include stopping the bleed. It can include 10 minutes or 15 minutes of CPR, walking you through CPR to keep your loved one alive until the paramedic gets there. So it's a very demanding job, very stressful job, but there's rewards. We help save people's lives, and we keep our first responders and our citizens safe.
Yeah. So with 1,500 calls coming in a day, what happens if 911 goes down?
Well, that's where the foundation has done a great job in helping us, and we appreciate it so much. When 911 goes down, we have a secondary, what we call a PSAP. It's an answering point where we can go, and we have 90% capability to pull up all the computers, all the phones, and respond to the community's needs. But what happens if something would happen to 911, we have to leave our position we're at and respond to the secondary PSAP. And what the foundation did for us, which we really appreciate, you helped us with a grant, which enabled us to buy some new backup radios. So in that time period from the time we're leaving 911 to go into secondary PSAP, we still have communications. What we do is we transfer our system to the Emergency Ambulance Authority, and while we go to our secondary PSAP, the Emergency Ambulance Authority takes calls. But our radios enables us to communicate with the Ambulance Authority to make sure we don't miss a call. So, if you got 60 calls an hour, that 10 minutes, there's going to be quite a few calls come in, and those secondary radios help us keep in contact with the responders to make sure we don't miss any calls, because one call could be the difference in life and death. And we take it very serious, and our staff, our deputy directors, our staff do a great job of having redundancy built into the system to hopefully we don't lose any calls and we keep the public safe.
Wow, that's important.
Yes, it is.
What kind of training does your staff have?
We do have the best training of 911 in the state, and we also we travel the country a little bit, the eastern United States, and we visit other 911 centers. And I'm proud to say our training's second to none. We got a great training officer, we got great executive directors, and we actually have a classroom training of 8 weeks before our dispatchers ever see the floor. And then after that, they have to graduate through each radio.
Wow.
There's 10 different radios in the center, and they have to conquer each radio because, you know, dispatching for the sheriff's office is a different specialty than dispatching to Charleston Police Department. There's different needs in the county than there's in the city.
That makes sense. Yep.
Dispatching for the Emergency Ambulance Authority is completely different than dispatching from law enforcement, and then once again the fire department is completely different. So they go through 8 weeks of training that includes geography, working with the computer-aided dispatch, just the proper way to talk to people when they call in. Like I say, it could be their worst day, and we want to make sure our dispatchers listen, ask the right questions, listen, and make sure our emergency responders get to the scene safely. And like I said, once again, they are the first responder. They are a first responder. They're the ones that make sure our responders are safe by giving them the proper information. They're the ones that make sure our public is safe because they give them instructions until the responders get there. You know, in case of a fire, what do you do? Do you go to the floor and crawl out? Do you stay stationary at a window? You know, we've had calls where our dispatchers were able to find a location in a building that's on fire and notify the fire department, so they were able to get to that scene and rescue those people. So, you know, we're actually the first responders in a different way. We're not out there getting shot at, but the stress and the information and taking care of the public is just important.
Well, and your people taking the calls, I'm guessing, have to almost weed through the emotion to get to the facts.
Yes. You're dealing with people, like I said, on their worst day, and they're excited. You got to calm them down. You got to get through the conversation and figure out what's wrong. People may be calling in, and you know, you got to figure out, is it someone bleeding? Is it someone that needs help? Are there weapons involved? You got to calm them down to get that information. So we train very heavily on taking charge of a conversation and then asking the right questions. And we got great dispatchers. They do a good job. There's instances we'll never train for, and because it's impossible, because you don't know what's going to come in on that 911 call. But our dispatchers think on their feet, and they're quick on their feet, and they're able to diagnose situations and get the information pretty well.
Yeah. With all this extensive training that Kanawha County does, is it the same is it the same statewide for 911?
Well, a lot of the accreditations and the regulations are the same throughout the state, throughout the country. However, we take it to another level. We've under direction of some of our executive directors and our training officer, we've developed a program that a lot of people look at and a lot of people use now. Because, like I say, there's 911 centers that train for a week and train for or so, but we don't do that. We think it's important that they receive great training before they go in the center, because even when you go in the center with 8 weeks of training, which we wish it'd be more, but you have to do move into the center. Even when you go in the center, you're still a new employee, and you're dealing with things you've never dealt with in your life. We have employees that come that were school teachers. We have employees that worked in fast food restaurants, and the key is being quick, asking questions, polite, and multitasking. And you can train all you want until you get in there and you have your first police pursuit with 3 police departments, or you have your first person who is having a heart condition and you give that CPR to a loved one. That's where you get a good dispatcher, and with the training and the experience.
I think experience has to help with that.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about training. I saw a news segment where parents who had some health issues had trained their small children how to call 911 and what to expect when they were talking to someone from 911. And I just thought that was like a little light bulb moment for me to help these small children understand.
Right.
And because you ask a lot of questions.
We ask a lot of questions, and it's very important. I mean, it's very important to teach your child what to do. Call 911. Get them on the phone. Know your address. Know your phone number. Our computer system gives us your phone number, but we always verify it's the right phone number. We verify it's the right address, because things happen and everything. But it's very important that you teach your children how to call 911 and what to expect. We have a good program that we go out to quite a few schools, mostly elementary schools, and we go out and also teach about 911.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, it's great. Now, one of our deputy directors came up with the program. It's a great program. They go out and they introduce 911, what to expect, and the questions that we'll be asking. So it's a good program.
Wow. You have social media, so
Yes,
that's
we
a
do.
great way for people to follow.
We do have social media, and it's used many ways. Number one, the day-to-day, what's going on at Metro. We like to show our employees they're really doing a good job. We try to reward our employees. We use that as a thing to help our employees to go through the stress of the day. We have social media that's used by a lot of other people. For an example, if there's a car accident on I-64 with traffic blocked, we social media that to the local news organizations, and the news organizations pick that up and they pass that information out.
Right.
We have social media in times of emergency, when the flood happened, when the tornado happened, when things like that happen. We have social media that our great IT people, our great executive director of IT, they have developed a way that we post it once and it goes to Twitter, it goes to Facebook, it goes to everything. And it tells where shelters are, for an example. If there's an emergency in one area of the county, it'll locate the shelters, and we'll send that out by Facebook and by Twitter and everything else you can send it out by. And it tells our citizens, if you need water in the water emergency, you need water, this is where some water's at, and we work well with the county commission. And I do want to say that the county commission is an excellent partner for us. They fund us well, not extravagant at all, but they give us what we need to keep the citizens safe. And we got a good partner in the county commission.
Oh, partnerships are important.
Yes.
So yes. When we were talking about technology, so I know that if possible, you always prefer people to call 911. And really, that is just dialing 911. I guess we should point that out. So you prefer the phone call, but you have a technology now to be able to text 911.
Right. We do prefer the phone call because we have so many questions asked to keep you safe and to keep the responders safe. However, the text 911 is a good tool. There are times that there's domestic violence. People can't speak in front of someone that is in a domestic violence event. They can't speak in front of them. They can go to the other room and send us a text, and we can respond to that text and converse back and forth by text. There are times when people have been kidnapped, been in cars or something like that. They can text 911. So it's a good tool, and if you're in an emergency where you can't speak and because the perpetrator of a crime or somebody might hear you, text is a good resource, but we do prefer the phone calls, because we can get so much more information so much quicker.
Right. And I guess, yes, more information, just period. There is no other way to put that.
Our job is we need information. Our job is to take care of people. When you look at what we do, our job is to take care of people. And with questions, we find out information to keep our responders safe, which is job one, and to keep our public safe, which is job 1A. And we without those questions, we can't do that. So that we train hard on asking questions, and we do a good QA. We have a QA program where we review certain calls, high-profile calls. We make sure our dispatchers ask the right questions. We make sure they get the right information. And so training isn't just 8 weeks. It isn't just the first 6 months you're on the radio. It's continuous every day.
Wow. And I'm sure that the responders are training each other. I had this situation, I reacted this way, I learned this. Yeah. So they share that information with each other.
We preach family. We have a great family atmosphere. We take care of our employees. And part of that is coaching and teaching. And we not only does the administration coach and teach, but we have captains, lieutenants who do a great job running the shifts. And then we have dispatchers that are there 4 or 5 years, that when a new person comes in, we encourage, and they look forward to making sure they do the right job. We have a great staff. We really do. We have very few problems. Do we have complaints? We do, because when you deal with 1,500 calls a day, 500,000 calls a year, things are going to happen. But we do a good job of correcting them and making sure our employees are doing what's right.
So 500,000, so 500,000 calls a year coming just from Kanawha County. We are so happy you're there taking care of us. Yeah,
it's kind of amazing. Like I said earlier, we visit 911 centers throughout the eastern United States just to make sure we're doing what's right and make sure we're doing the best we can. And there are 911 centers with sometimes double the population base of Kanawha County, but we take more calls. It's possible because of the interstate system that we have, 64, 77, 79.
Yes, so by calling 911, you have access to 32 fire departments, 22 police departments, and 2 EMS services. You're taking good care of us with 1,500 calls a day. John Rutherford, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, and we thank the foundation so much for your support, because we can't do it without the public and people like the
Thank
foundation
you.
helping us.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. This has been Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. We'll see you next time.